It's all well and good for Adam Bandt to be screaming about climate change and get rid of the Prime Minister and all that, and try to blame one man for hundreds of years of fossil fuel use. But now it's all down to Scott Morrison. He is causing this hot summer. And if you don't get rid of Scott Morrison, you will get warmer and warmer summers. The answers to the warming climate, apparently, if it is warming, is to attack the politicians, because the politicians are the cause of global warming. Not everyone using a car, or if that's your theory. Not everyone using energy. Not everyone living within the modern economy. They play no role in it. Just you attack one man, which proves it's all about politics, nothing to do with climate change. Because if there was a concern about climate change, there would be no politics involved. It would be an intellectual committee that would then answer, how do you deal with the economics? How do you create a currency flow so you can afford all the services and employ thousands of people? And how do you afford welfare and all those things? And how do you keep the economy going, a productive economy going? These are the fundamental questions that must be answered first before you try to do something about climate change. Because doing something about climate change within Australia's perspective is basically a spurious argument with the simple fact that Adam Bandt, of all people, denies is we are only 1/5 of a part per million of gross global CO2. And that means that Adam Bandt is a dishonest man. He's an openly dishonest man. And the only reason he thinks he's got a following, because a lot of noisy people have never investigated the facts and analysed the data and statistics for themselves. Now, if they had, they'd come to realise self-realisation, which is what democracy should be all about. Self-realisation, not following an ideology of anyone, but self-realisation by personally analysing facts, the data and the statistics, to get one's own satisfaction out of an answer to what is the concern, or to find a solution if you find the answer to that. The point is, and this can be proven and in the court of law, Adam Bandt works for the fossil fuel industry. He does not work. He pretends. He makes lots of noise. The more noise he makes, the more dishonest you know he is. And you know he works for the fossil fuel industry because all you got to do a bit of detective work and say, why are they against nuclear energy when nuclear energy is the solution to reducing CO2 the fastest and providing all the energy you need for cities and trains and storage and pumping water, running TVs, fridges, having showers, and recharging the future of cars, which will be EVs. You cannot do that with what you call wind and solar, because they're energy loss system, which California now has learnt to its great expense, and it's causing a massive amount of poverty in California, more and more homeless in San Francisco. And this is what these Marxist policies will do: create a lot more homelessness as an elite take advantage of their political position and rip off the country, pretending they're doing something about climate, when it's obviously they're not, because they're ignoring the fact that with only 24, 25 million people, Australia can do very little about the climate whatsoever compared with the rest of the world. We're a very small percentage of the world's population. Two, with only 1/5 of 1 part per million of annual gross CO2 emissions, we're obviously an infinitely small percentage of CO2. And when another fact is, there's 150,000 more cars on the road per annum in Australia, which means there's an increase in fossil fuel usage imported every year by that 1.7% or what it is to maintain those vehicles fleet. And that 1.7, that's a compound effect over the next 10 years. Because you cannot bring EVs en masse unless you've got the baseload power to charge them. That's a very simple math. That's a very simple fact. Anyone who was really concerned about climate would find the real facts so they can then deal with things factually, not emotionally or politically, because it's not a political problem. It is a engineering and technical problem, and one about stats and data analysis so we can run the economy. Ignoring the baseline of running an economy means you effectively create an enormous amount of poverty, and that will affect the very people who follow the likes of Adam Bandt. They'll be the ones most affected by this. So Adam Bandt worked for, without any doubt, Adam Bandt worked for the fossil fuel industry, whether he likes to admit it or not, because it would mean by his policies of banning nuclear and banning coal, it would mean we would import more and more fossil fuel out far into the future, far further into the future than we would if we took up nuclear immediately. But the real thing about mitigation of climate change is how we deal with water. And no one so far has offered any ideas or solutions, or there's no input whatsoever to the real concern about climate changing, which is drought. That's the real concern. You can't stop drought, and the drought is caused by the Antarctic effect, Antarctic influence. You can figure that out for yourself. By cooling the oceans down, it's causing less precipitation, less evaporation, therefore less precipitation. But it seems like it's hotter because the cold air is pushing the warm air up into spaces in New South Wales and making it seem hotter. It's a very simple bit of geophysics. Most people don't understand. But we can spend some money in Australia if we're really interested in this sort of problem. There would be money spent on creating the Bradfield scheme and recycling the wastewater from sewage and catching water from the shops and businesses and wherever the roofs and compiling that water into reservoirs within towns. Now that would be a solution, a mitigation solution worthwhile following. As it is, it's a rabble that this Adam Bandt, Hitler Bandt, he raves on like Hitler, and he's a very scary man. Because he's either extremely ignorant, can't do the most basic of maths, or extremely dishonest. That, unless I interview him and talk to him, and someone pins him down on this, rationally, we won't know. And I doubt if he could handle a decent interview. It's what's missing in the whole of this is decent, rational discussions and intelligent conversations and interviews, which then allows us to see what's really in these politicians' minds, no matter which side they're on. That's what's missing. The problem with the media is it does not know. It's either involved with this conspiracy, because it does not. It will not analyse the statistical data, and it will not rationally interview politicians so it gets rational answers, instead of making demands that a politician can somehow, you change your politician, and then somehow you're going to get better weather. Now, someone needs to tell me, 150,000 more cars per annum in Australia, when you can't have nuclear energy to charge up EVs. And California's proven it's impossible to run your cities and charge EVs with wind and solar and batteries. And it proves there's no rational conversation going on within these people's votes, especially the heads of the likes of Hitler Bandt. He's more like Hitler than anything else. He can only lead this country to rack and ruin. That's what Marxist does. It's a dictatorship. It's dangerous. It supports aggression and violence, and it stamps down on free speech and attacks those with opinions that are different to what the elite allow, just like China does, or any other Marxist state. So be warned about this Adam Bandt. He's a dangerous little man.